Hey everyone, welcome back to the Python for QA and Developers series. Today we learn something very simple but very important in Python programming, and that is conditional logic. That means you tell Python to do something only when certain condition is true and use if, elif, else. So these are the three words that will help your code decide what to do based on different situations, just like decisions in real life. When we write automation tests or any Python program, we often need to check a condition. For example, we want to check if a user is valid or not. Then we take different action. This is where if, elif, else come into play. So the Python syntax is very clean and easy. First, let's look at this example where we check one condition, and if that condition is true, then Python runs that block. Otherwise, Python skips it. So this is the code. So you can see here we say that if the age is greater than 18, greater than or equal to 18. So here you have the condition. If the age is greater than or equal to 18, we print the message you are adult. If the condition is false, Python skips it and does nothing because we have no else yet. There is no else block here. So, but what if we want to do another action when the condition is false? Then we use the else. So here is the updated code with the if and the else. So here you can see is when the age is not equal to, when this condition is false. In other words, when the age is less than 18, let's say 16 or 17, it goes to the else part and prints this message, you are not adult yet. So that's how it works. So if it is true, it goes to this message block, code block, and if it is else, it goes to this. And here I have one line of code. You might have multiple lines of code inside this if. So they all will be executed whenever the condition age greater than or equal to 8 is true, or else it's going to print this one line, or you can add as many lines as you want and it will execute everything under this else. But in other situation, how many times have you seen that you have more than two options that need to be checked? For example, the user might be an admin user or editor or viewer. So here we use elif, which means else if. So you can use multiple elif blocks between if and else. So you can see here, so we check multiple conditions here. So here the role is editor, so it's going to check the first condition. If the role is not an admin, so it's going to come to the elif and it's going to check the condition satisfied here, so it's going to print edit access. So you can see here the elif is repeated multiple times to check many different checks where depending on the number of roles you might have. So the one important thing to remember is Python checks the conditions in order. It checks this condition and then this condition. It won't jump from here to here. So it goes sequentially. So first if, and then the first elif, and then the next elif, and so on. So as soon as the one condition is true, Python will run that block and it will skip the rest of the code. The rest of the code inside in the if else block, and it will come to other parts of the code where you might have a for loop or a print statement. So it's going to skip the rest of the elif and the else whenever it finds a particular condition is true. So it's going to print edit access and it's going to not do anything. So you can see here it prints the edit access because the condition is true and it skipped the rest of the if, elif, else code. Now let's make the example related to QA or test output. Imagine we have a test score stored in a variable and we want to show text based on the score. And here I have this code ready, and you can see here Let's say we have a score and we have this if elif, and we are checking the score for many conditions. First we check if the score is 90 or more, then excellent. If not, Python will go to the next elif and executes the next condition. So it continues until one condition is true or else, which means if all the conditions are false, it comes to the else part and it prints fail if none of these conditions match. So this is a very powerful logic because your program can make real decisions, not only run line by line. It allows your code to react based on real conditions. So now let's look at a real world example you might use in QA automation script. Imagine you have a variable login success and you want to take action based on the login result. So here you can see here we are telling Python if the login success is true, then go to next step, print this message, or else it's going to handle the failure and it's going to print this log message, the output message, test failed, capture screenshot, and stop. So you can also use nested conditions. That means you can put one if inside another if. So let's look at an example here. Here you can see an if block here, and inside the if we have an if else block. So here Python first checks if the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, which is true, so it's going to come inside the if and checks that if the cart has items. If the cart here it is false, so it's going to print the else part and is going to print the cart is empty. So if the user is not logged in, then it's going to come to the else part and print the message, please log in first. So that's how it works. So nested conditions helps you handle multiple checks inside each other. Now let's see another example with input that takes the user input. Imagine we ask the user to enter a number and we check whether the number is positive or negative. So here we have an input from the user. When the user enters a number, for example 5, we check the input, the number entered by the user is captured in the num variable, and if the value captured is greater than 0, it is a positive number. So we are going to print the positive number and we're going to skip the rest of the code. And if it is a negative number, it's going to print the message 0. So the viewer can test it live while running the script. So this is very useful for beginners to practice. So remember the important Python rule: conditions use equals equals, as you can see here, for comparing the value on the right hand side, the left hand side to the right hand side. And don't use a single equal sign. Single equal is only useful for assignment. Suppose you have x equal to 5, so you can use here single equal. Here it makes sense, but when you want to check something, compare two values. I'm comparing the value num to 0, so you have to use the 2 equal sign. So that's the right way. So this is a common mistake beginners make. So always use double equals when comparing values. So in real QA script, you may check element counts, status codes, test results, and many conditions. This logic is the foundation of all decisions in code. So today you learned how to use if, elif, and else, and how Python checks them one by one in order. And we saw how nested conditions work and how to use them in a practical test flow. So if this video helped you, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends who are also learning Python and QA. And this will really help the channel grow and help more learners around the world. Thank you for watching and happy coding, and I will see you in the next video.